Welcome once again to Prepare to Dice, the animated series where a bunch of friends come together and play Dungeons & Dragons.
You come face to face with a massive monster with a gaping maw full of teeth, 3 huge legs, and flailing tentacles. What do?
Fellas, it looks like we're facing a knock-yug.
Telling us this interactive story. We're characters in it. We have these sheets. We say, I want to do this. And then he rolls dice, and he knows certain rules, tells us whether we succeeded or failed. And that's about it. So, without further ado, let's go!
The original Dungeons & Dragons fantasy role-playing game, commonly abbreviated D&D, was first published in 1974, and has since experienced a meteoric rise in popularity, especially during the pandemic era. Sales exceeded $1 million by 1978, and today D&D products have brought in over $1 billion with a B. However, barely anyone outside the geeky inner circle are aware that an animated series licensing the Dungeons & Dragons property was introduced in the early 1980s, at the height of the swirling anecdotal scares of demonology, witchcraft, and death. How is this show produced amid the black cloud of activist protest? What is unique about the voice talent that brought these characters to life? Let's find out together as we explore the animated realm of Dungeons & Dragons. As a child of the 80s, I remember waking up early every Saturday to watch 6 hours of cartoons while recording 6 other hours onto VHS tape to watch throughout the remainder of the day. Over 30 years later, I now have kids of my own, and there's a whole generation out there that have no idea about Centurions, Wheeled Warriors, and Silverhawks. So, what if I shared with you all the details I can remember about these iconic animated adventures? What if I told you secrets about production and the talent that created them? Together, we can learn just how relevant these shows could be if they were still on today. It's time for us to reanimate our youth. The premise was simple. 6 friends visiting an amusement park are transported to a fantasy world called the Realm. Beset upon by a 5-headed dragon and Sark from Disney's Tron, the kids are gifted magical equipment by Dungeon Master, the local Yoda, in both size and verbal ambiguity. Along the way, they meet a myriad of characters, some friends and some foes, that all hold some sort of lesson or test that the group must endure. The constant theme through every episode was the worry about, or the journey toward, finding their way home. Some episodes hinted that the kids were on a journey of self-discovery, and once they acknowledged themselves in some significant way, they would return to their world. Actually, the party was able to open up or find a portal home 8 different times across 27 episodes, but some major decision or moral dilemma always resulted in the party remaining behind to continue their struggle.
He's using my dopey shield to fight Venger? Aww. Hank, what can we do?
Boy, I can almost taste those hamburgers.
While enduring their Bad Guy of the Week adventures, the kids underwent some major character development. Sure, they kept their personalities throughout the entire series, but we, the audience, learned more and more about them with each episode. For example, the episode Quest of the Skeleton Warrior had the team ascend a tower that turned their own greatest fears against them. This story itself could have lasted numerous episodes, maybe even a 5-episode movie-length series. Another significant focus throughout the series was the concept of family. The group united as family under their common struggles. Sheila and Bobby were actual brother and sister. And then there were the plot-shrouded relationships between Venger, Karina, and Dungeon Master. Regardless of the recurring themes, we, the audience, could easily identify with one or more of the character tropes available in the 6 heroes stranded in an unknown and unforgiving world, closely parallel how someone is meant to feel if they were playing Dungeons & Dragons for the first time.
Wait down there, Uni. I'll come back for you. I promise. Wow.
My folks have a place just like this in the mountains. Wish I was there.
Sometimes we wish you were there too, Eric.
Remember what the Dungeon Master said about Venger.
We should recognize him by his white hair. Drawbridge is up!
Hello! Can't you just swim across the moat?
Well, maybe you'd like to try.
Oh, no thanks. I've never cared much for skydiving.
This looks like my department.
I have come across many names in the voice acting world that performed as numerous other famous animated characters during their careers. Therefore, it is interesting to note that most of the primary voices for this show were actually established live-action television performers. Some were even from the same show.
This is like a bad dream. Oh no, and the dream's getting worse.
Hank was the de facto leader of the party and performed those duties with respect and wise judgment. Likeable and level-headed, Hank led the group with no pretense about being a great hero, knowing the group is in way over their heads, but deciding to take challenges one at a time instead of complaining about the overwhelming unfairness of it all. He was gifted the energy bow that acts as a +2 composite longbow, shooting magical arrows of glowing energy. Hank was voiced by Willie Alms. Willie started his career as a child actor, and a good one too. He rose to fame with his role as Tommy Bradford on 8 is Enough in 1977, but few people remember that he had 17 on-screen roles before 8 is Enough, each with multiple episodes.
Yeah, even if what you believe in is garbage. No, I didn't mean it that way, really. You guys know what.
Immediately after Dungeons & Dragons, Willie had another 126-episode run on the sitcom Charles in Charge with Scott Baio.
I got a lot of bills to pay. Think you can practice someplace else?
Oh, and where do you suggest, Charles? I've already been thrown out of the dorm, the library, 2 department stores, and a funeral home.
I don't believe we did that.
Hey, I do that kind of stuff all the time. Twice on Tuesdays.
You do?
No, silly. I was just kidding.
If Hank was the compass, Diana the acrobat was the group's engine. Diana was brave, level-headed, and seemed least intimidated by their circumstances. Her confidence allowed her to be calm in dangerous situations and easily friendly to the rest of the group. She was granted the Javelin staff, both a +2 key strike quarterstaff and +2 key strike javelin. This amazing weapon could be both swung and thrown and would always return. Much of Diana's acrobatic abilities could be attributed to this magical device, but her strong spirit and dedication was all her own. Diana was voiced by Tanya Gale Smith. Tanya's only other role was as a background character on the live-action sitcom The Facts of Life. Despite earning herself an Outstanding Young Actress nomination at the 7th Annual Youth in Film Awards, nowadays called the Young Artist Awards, Tanya has had no acting credits to her name after Dungeons & Dragons. If you would like to know more about Tanya, the website Narazu.com said it best with, "I wish you the absolute best of luck in your search. There is no info online about any other TV or film roles, almost no photographs of her to be found, and no information about where she is now."
Hello? 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 Hello?
Sheila, can't you do something about your little brother?
He's not bothering anyone.
He's bothering me. I'm trying to think of a way to get us out of this freaky place and back home.
Eric the Cavalier was described by the D&D handbook as sarcastic, pessimistic, and egotistical. Series developer Mark Evanier described him as the kid who, no matter what you say, Eric will top you. If you won a silver medal, he'll tell you he won a gold. With a personality like that, you might wonder why this character was included in the group. Mark answered this question too. Eric was the one thing I really didn't like about the show. So why did I leave him in there? Answer: I had to. As you may know, there are those out there who attempt to influence the content of children's television. We call them parent groups. They all seek to make KidVid more enriching and redeeming, at least by their definitions. At the time, the dominant pro-social moral was, the group is always right, the complainer is always wrong. We were forced to insert this lesson into D&D, which is why Eric is always saying, I don't want to do that. What about thinking for yourself? What about developing your own personality and viewpoint? We weren't allowed to teach any of that. We had to teach kids to do whatever the rest of the gang wanted to do. What a stupid thing to teach children. Eric was gifted the Griffin Shield, a heavy steel shield with +2 to bashing that was mostly used to magically protect the group from various attacks. Eric was voiced by Donald Most. Don rose to fame as Ralph Malph on the long-running series Happy Days, despite having 16 other credits to his name before then.
You know something, Leather? You may have a nail in your heel, but you've got a lot of soul. I've still got it!
Don has continued his career getting bit roles in countless television shows, including Charles in Charge with Willie Oms.
What do you say? It looks like Happy Days are here again.
Star Trek Voyager, Glee, and Family Guy.
Actually, it's Don Most now.
It's gotta be in here someplace. A spell to get us all home.
Albert, better known as Presto the Magician, was that kid in school who turned to learning magic tricks to fit in, calling himself Presto to make himself sound cooler than he felt he had a right to be. Plagued with self-confidence issues, Albert's attempts at magic in school were usually unqualified failures. Presto was gifted the Hat of Many Spells that can craft items or empower spells, although the results are similar to D&D's Rod of Wonder or that mythical Monkey Paw, in that the results might be what he asked for, but not necessarily what he intended. For example, in the episode Eye of the Beholder,
Powers that come and go in the night. Banish these snail things from my sight. Hey, get this thing off of me.
banished from his sight. Get it? Presto was voiced by Adam Rich, another 8 is Enough star. Adam played younger brother Nicholas in the long-running show. Adam had many more live-action roles afterward, but quit acting in 2003 and sadly passed away in January of this year.
Well, I was just giving my plants a drink. My teacher says they need water, just like we do.
Sure. Listen, how about stopping all that and helping me do something very important?
What?
Spend the whole day with my favorite grandson.
Wow, you really mean it? Okay, you bag of bones. Try picking on someone my size.
Bobby was that age where a kid knows they need others to survive, but hates being told what to do. That made him perfectly suited for the role of Barbarian. While the Dungeons & Dragons effect of Barbarian Rage wasn't explicitly stated in any episode, Bobby fought all enemies with a sort of David versus Goliath impulsivity and recklessness. Despite being the good soldier to Hank's leadership, Bobby was the younger brother of Sheila, and hated being scolded by her. He was granted the Thunder Club, a +2 damage great club that provided +4 to strength to match his temper. He was also dressed to look like He-Man, which, given the time frame of the show's production, is probably more than just a coincidence. Bobby was voiced by Teddy Field III. Teddy did only a few voice roles before deciding to change careers. According to the website Behind the Voice Actors, Teddy now works as a dentist in Boca Raton, Florida. I was unable to verify this, but hey, why not?
Hank, if we find Tiamat, and if we convince her to help us against Venger, what'll we do with him once we've got him?
Whatever it takes.
Sheila was the group's rogue, better known as a thief. Mark Evanier said it best, and anyone that has played Dungeons & Dragons would agree, that in the world of Dungeons & Dragons, being a thief is not thought of as a dishonorable profession. She was relied upon to retrieve guarded items and fool or surprise enemies. However, when she steals, it's obviously for a good purpose. Sheila was bestowed a cloak of invisibility, allowing her to completely disappear from vision whenever the hood was pulled over her head. Sheila was the older sister to Bobby, taking the even greater challenge of keeping his barbarian whims in check while trying to get both of them home alive. Furthermore, Sheila was never called a thief in the show, except for the opening credits. Even Dungeon Master, who called all the other children by their role, Ranger, Cavalier, etc., always called Sheila by her given first name. Sheila was voiced by Katie Lee. Katie made a name for herself in the voice acting world with over 130 credits spanning 5 decades. Her significant roles around the time of Dungeons & Dragons were Rolf in Muppet Babies and Sonny Gummy in Disney's Adventures of the Gummy Bears.
My juice. When my belt fastener broke, I set it down and forgot it.
You are wise to be cautious, my young friends. There is great danger ahead.
What this time, oh terrible tour guide?
Every tabletop RPG player knows the role of Dungeon Master has no equal and sets the tone for how the adventurers are going to accomplish their objectives. In the cartoon, Dungeon Master was a diminutive enigma. Here one moment and gone the next, he spoke in ciphers and puzzles, and he would provide important advice as equally as he would leave the team to figure out what he just said. No one ever saw him appear or disappear. He would just be there one moment and then not there the next. Despite his minuscule screen time, Dungeon Master was an indispensable influence on the overall story, and he had a rich backstory of his own. But his motives remain shrouded in mystery. It's a difficult moment when I feel like I'm spoiling secrets of a 40-year-old TV show, but Dungeon Master was revealed to be the arch-villain Venger's father, a connection that was hinted during the episodes The Treasure of Tardos and The Dragon's Graveyard, but explicitly revealed in the unproduced final episode titled Requiem. This was a massive twist for children's animation at the time. Dungeon Master was voiced by Sidney Miller, a legendary screen actor, writer, and director. Sidney had over 150 acting credits to his name. He started acting at 14, all the way back in 1930, the very beginning of what was known as the talkie era in film history. He acted in movies and television shows across 5 decades before switching to voice roles in the early 1980s. Voice acting allowed him to continue performing for 2 more decades before passing away from Parkinson's disease in 2004.
I am from Pismo Beach, sir.
Well, you're a long way from home, aren't you? That's about 100 miles up north.
Well, I have been trying to get to Los Angeles for 5 months now to say hello to the old gang down here, sir.
With powerful magic and minions, Venger was deemed the villain of the show. In actuality, the 5-headed dragon Tiamat was the, quote, big bad, and Venger needed the weapons and equipment of the kids in order to defeat Tiamat and conquer the realm. Therefore, he was always at odds with the 6 visitors and Dungeon Master. It is eventually revealed that he had been mind-controlled for over 1,000 years and is actually Dungeon Master's son. Venger was voiced by Peter Cullen, a prolific and talented voice actor whose credits include Eeyore in Winnie the Pooh and the Predator in the Arnold Schwarzenegger film. But stay with me, I have a secret to share. Frank Welker lent his voice for Uni the Unicorn and Tiamat the 5-headed dragon. Frank has a virtually uncountable amount of voice acting credits to his name. Well into the thousands if you count commercial voiceover work. But hear me out, because I'm going to say this slow. Dungeons & Dragons had both Optimus Prime and Megatron before the original Transformers cartoon hit the air. Peter Cullen, the voice of Venger, was the long-running voice of Optimus Prime in both the cartoons and the modern-day movies. And Frank Welker, the voice of a unicorn and a dragon, is the voice of Megatron.
So, you have defeated the frost giant I sent against you.
Fine. Now let's begin Operation Antimatter. And be careful.
It's Tiamat!
You have invaded the dragon's graveyard! Shockwave, I must get back to Earth. There's no telling what damage that fool Starscream has done in my absence.
Dennis Marks, a children's animation screenwriter, began working with Marvel Entertainment on animated productions of Spider-Man and The Incredible Hulk in the early 1980s. At the time, TSR Incorporated owned the rights to Dungeons & Dragons. Dennis, under the umbrella of Marvel, made an animated series pitch to the Dungeons & Dragons game creator Gary Gygax. TSR and Gygax accepted, so Dennis created the cartoon, and Marvel agreed to co-produce and market it. Through many revisions, the show ultimately fell into the hands of Mark Evanier, who developed it from Dennis's ideas into the series that was sold to and broadcast by CBS in 1983. Legendary animation writer Michael Reeves stated, "Credit must go to Judy Price, then president of children's programming for CBS, for taking a chance on it and not playing it safe by slapping another Care Bears clone on the air instead. Also during that time, the Dungeons & Dragons game was undergoing scrutiny and protest. In 2016, the New York Times did a fantastic retro report on the quote, satanic panic around Dungeons & Dragons in the early 1980s. It debunked the correlation, but one particular incident where an outstandingly bright teenager who just happened to enjoy playing the game tragically committed suicide instigated the widespread negative media attention. While this had the added effect of increasing sales of Dungeons & Dragons books in its early years of publishing, it also resulted in action groups protesting the game. There were even petitions sent to the Federal Trade Commission and the Consumer Protection Agency attempting to require warnings on game books and the cartoon, stating that Dungeons & Dragons products were linked to violent deaths. Fortunately, these petitions were rejected. In the end, Dungeons & Dragons saw mild success, wherein it lasted 3 seasons on air, albeit at lower episode count that you would expect. Only 27 episodes were produced for broadcast.
Dungeon Master? But I thought you were going to meet us...
Things have changed, Ranger. I came to warn you.
About what? Are we in danger?
Your friends will find great jeopardy, but you will face the most difficult trial of your life. Be strong, Ranger, and listen to your heart.
Dungeon Master, wait!
Very few things from my youth got better when I re-experienced them through adult eyes. Dungeons & Dragons came out when I was still in single digits, so all I remember as a kid was watching a roller coaster go all crazy, watching Sheila disappear to steal a key or trip a bad guy, and hating Eric. I was never allowed to play Dungeons & Dragons as a kid either. My mother was one of the people who believed the media about the true atrocities that were falsely attributed to the game. Eventually, I grew up, moved out, and I learned for myself just how fun these games could be. Actually, I had taken a huge fondness for playing sneaky characters, and invisibility is my strength. And that's something I firmly believe I can attribute to my memories of this cartoon. After growing up, I started watching the cartoon again, and just like many others who still love this show to this day, I savored the richness of character development it had to offer, deftly floated through the flowing currents of anguish and success, and reflected on the moonlit shores of my own history, knowing full well that I could never have understood this show the same way that I can today.
Hey, look! The Dungeons & Dragons ride!
The Dungeons & Dragons cartoon never had an origin episode. Instead, the show's opening credits served that purpose, showing the kids entering a carnival roller coaster, traveling through an interdimensional window into the realm, and earning their equipment. A fitting summary within the first 90 seconds of every episode, but as such, we do not truly know how long they were trapped in the realm. The audience is conditioned to root for the kids to get home. Certainly each episode reminded us that the kids want to return to their normal lives. In actuality, there were several times where the kids either saw the way home or were inches away from getting there, only to be held back by the moral decision to save a friend or defeat an enemy. Despite this, everyone that remembers the show wanted to know the fate of the group, to the point where endings were even devised by fans. For example, an aged-up version of the group appears in the Forgotten Realms comic The Grand Tour, showing that they actually never made it home. There is an Easter egg in the BioWare game Baldur's Gate 2, released in 2000, that relates a very sad ending to the group. A fan-made video on YouTube shows the party going home, but Presto remaining behind in the realm to become a true wizard. And you'd have to be living under a rock to not have seen the trailers showing a cameo of the group in the Paramount film Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. But what you may not know is that there's an even more brilliant car commercial from Brazil that looks like it could have been made into a Hollywood movie itself, showing the group finally returning to their own world with a twist. If you want to see the whole commercial, and believe me, you do, the link is in the description below. Strangely enough, the ending credits themselves give a cryptic hint as to the fate of the group, showing the empty amusement park at sunset with no one around. Did they make it home and leave when the park closed? Did the blissfully unaware park attendants depart after a day of fun? Or was the park shut down once it was discovered that 6 children went missing? And for those of you that came to this point in the video hoping that I will talk about that unproduced final episode of the series titled Requiem, I will let the writer of that episode, Michael Reeves, speak for himself. He wrote, "As the 3rd season drew to a close, I was told CBS was thinking of doing an episode that would close out the season. This is a fairly common practice today, but it was pretty much unheard of back then, particularly in animation. It was decided that the episode should end on a note that was both ambiguous and triumphant to cover all bases, because at the time we were doing the script and we didn't know if the show would be renewed for a 4th season or not. Unfortunately, problems with TSR ultimately killed the plans for a new season, and Requiem was taken off the production board. You can read the script on Michael Reeves' personal blog using the links in the description below. The script was actually voice acted for the DVD release of the show, but if you use a little YouTube kung fu, you could probably find a few different fan-made productions of Requiem as well. The story of Venger's redemption in Requiem was yet another delicious twist on the good versus evil trope, especially for mid-1980s children's animation, yet it seems fitting for this specific show. Dungeons & Dragons is not like Monopoly or Clue, where there is a distinct beginning, middle, and end game. D&D throws you into the thick of the story, where things have happened in the world long before your characters even arrived, and the end of the final battle is never the end of the story. If you've ever played it, you know that it's rare for a storyline to just end and everyone leaves. You still have to return to the quest giver and reap your rewards, tie up loose ends, and find out what new adventures await the party that defeated the big bad oppressor. Having the cartoon end so ambiguously showed great respect for the source material, knowing that the true ending is in the mind, or the attention span, of the players. And if you want to count it, Requiem is yet another time the party was given the opportunity to leave the realm. From a production standpoint, show developer Mark Evanier wrote, "The Dungeons & Dragons series was cancelled due to declining ratings. I keep reading stories about it getting yanked off the air because it was too violent, or because protest groups thought it was satanic or something. As far as I know, the protests were minimal and had no impact. The show simply began losing its audience, as all shows eventually do. Thanks to the nostalgic resurgence of our time, you can see the original 6 adventures today in modern film cameos, new books and comics, and plenty of toys and wearables. But if the show was made today, we don't even need to wonder what it would be like. You have to check out Critical Role's The Legend of Vox Machina on Amazon Prime Video. You can thank me afterwards in the comments down below." If you're new to the channel, I'm doing deep dives into the cartoons of my childhood, remembering every facet of the stories that defined my youth. I hope you enjoyed this video enough to hit subscribe and share it with other people. Leave a comment below so we can share our memories together and even make new ones. And you can leave me ideas for future videos. Maybe you could hit that notification bell so you know when the next episode is available too. Here's a hint about my next episode. See you soon.
What are my parents gonna say when I tell them that Nikki's been kidnapped by a guy that hasn't even been born yet?
It's Beth he wants. Sooner or later, Dreer will make a move. That's when we get your brother.
Well, what kind of plan is that? We'll wait. Let's go find him.
And where do you want to start looking? The age of the dinosaurs?